Hey everybody, Phil here. What we're going to do today is create a articles website in Rails 7, and that is something that shows you a whole bunch of different articles. Let you upload those articles with attachments and everything like that, but that's not the whole point. The whole point is that it will let you purchase these articles or subscribe to the entire website using Stripe. So if we take a quick look at what I've got, you're going to get, and let's find an article here. So we're going to show an article. It's got a preview of a PDF attachment. We're going to be able to purchase that article by going to Stripe and entering in all of our payment information. Or if we really love the website, we're going to be able to subscribe for $10 a month. So that's what we're going to be doing. Let's get into it. Okay, everybody, so let's get started. First thing, I'm going to take you through the tedious process of creating the Rails 7 application before we get into the Stripe stuff. Maybe there'll be something in here that you might find interesting. I think it's always interesting to see the starting of a project, especially if it's doing different things, like I'm going to be using ActiveStorage to upload and so on and so forth. So here's what I usually do. I'm inside of my incorrectly spelled test projects folder, and I'm gonna make a new directory called Rails 7 Stripe, and let's move into that. Not Rails 4. You'll see a lot of my typing is horrible, and that's because I'm mildly dyslexic. So I'm not quite sure what Ruby version we've got here. Good Lord, 2.6.6. So why don't we, what I find the kind of the easiest thing to do is just to create a Ruby version file, Ruby version, in the kind of the super directory of the thing that you're going to be doing on. And I've already got Rails and everything, and we can see got gem installed Rails. And I think we're going to use 704.3. And what else would we need? Gem install HTML beautifier. That seems to work good. And solar graph. These are kind of just the maintenance-y things that I would do. And I'm running Rails, or I'm running Postgres inside of Docker. So here's what I do to install the Docker gem, or to install the PG gem, which is what you need. Let's grab, I got a ton of code off screen that I'll be pasting in. So we're going to install the PG gem. I know you can't see me touching the screen, but you can install the PG gem, and we're going to use this. You have to have a version of Postgres actually installed on your machine, but that's not the machine that we're going to be using, or the Postgres that we're going to be using. We're going to be using it inside of Docker. So it's going to go out, it's going to create the PG config, and install that into our Ruby version. There we go, we're all done. So what we're gonna do here, let's just quickly change a couple of things to be that. That doesn't work here. So as usual, I'm going to use a Postgres and Bootstrap. I'm a Bootstrap person. If you don't like it, I'm sorry. Rails 7 Stripe demo, very sexy name. And we'll use a database of PostgreSQL, and we'll use a CSS of Bootstrap, and that will by default give us a Rails 7 app running Bootstrap 5. Let's see how that does. Give it a minute. Not drinking coffee today, drinking a tea. So this goes through, does the usual stuff. Stimulus, I'm not going to be using stimulus on this one so much. Maybe next week or next time I will flesh out this application a little bit, but I know a couple of people have asked me for something about Stripe, so that's primarily the focus of this one, is to get you up and running on Stripe in about an hour, doing products and subscriptions. All right, let's jump into our directory. And let's open VS Code. Let's put it at a reasonable size. So first thing, of course, we're going to add some crap to the gem file. And what are we going to need? Well, I use .env. You know, that kind of simulates using the environment like I use it on a proper server. I always run on Ubuntu. And so let's add in some of the other stuff. So I always use .env Rails, and that lets you have a .env file that gets loaded in. And the other thing in development, I will use annotate and letter opener. Annotate lets you see the database fields actually inside of the model. Very handy. And letter opener is very cool. It's an interceptor. I'm not going to actually use it in here, but I just like to put it in by default. It's an interceptor so that whenever you send an email, it pops open in a browser window, which is pretty cool. And so that's all we need there. Save it. Yes, I've saved it. And let's do a bundle, and that will install annotate and letter opener and all the rest of that stuff. And finally, like everyone else, we're going to use Devise as the authentication system, and Devise 18n and Devise Bootstrap 5, which will give us all of our views as Devise views, Bootstrap views. And while that's running, let's go over and look at Devise Bootstrap 5. Because we need to see what we need to run here. So you run the regular Rails G Devise install. So you get that going first. And the other thing that I also create is a Rails G Devise. Oh my goodness, Devise user with a role of integer. Again, we're not going to be using the role so much, but it's good practice to get into. What I do is use the integer to say whether this is an admin or a super admin or something like that. That's different than kind of user roles inside of the app, but you have general roles like that. I just find it easier to put an integer column. And while I'm at it, you can see I'm whipping through here. It's like I've had 10 coffees and I haven't, because I've kind of cut down on the coffee. Devise create users. I'm whipping through because this is stuff that I always do. So I'm pretty used to doing it. So the Devise stuff is all done, and then we just need to, that's it actually. We don't need to run anything. This is only, I'm not going to customize the views, I don't think. So I'm not going to pull these in, which you could do. So we should be good to go. Let's add a .env file. And, oh yeah. Okay, so we're going to create a Docker compose YAML. I'm giving you tons of information here in this Docker file Postgres. Don't really need to do that in this case, but we will. Okay, so let's, where are you? Let's look at our Docker. First of all, start with Docker Postgres, which is pretty simple. It's just, what version of Postgres are we going to use? I don't know what you're doing there. We're just going to say from Postgres 14.6. That's what we're going to use as our base. And the Docker compose file is a little more interesting than that. I will copy all that in, and then we can take a look at it, go through. So this is how you would connect to Postgres, because we're running it, remember, inside of Docker. So you don't just do a p-SQL. You got to say the host, and you have to say the port, whichever port it is that you are going to specify. Let's do a 54678, and you can do any port you want. That's the Docker port, and it will always connect on the other side, because Docker is like a proxy almost. So you're going to go in on 54678, and it'll talk to Postgres that's always running on 5432. Let's give it R7 stripe name, and so that's going to be the name of our data file that it creates. And we can do R7 stripe Redis, R7 stripe Redis data, which will be, because I also run Redis inside of Docker, and we'll do a published of 1699969. Why not? And data 1, do we use that anywhere? No, we don't use that anywhere. And I just create a simple password, and it goes out, uses the Docker file that I specified before just to grab the version, creates a container name, which is going to be this one, and that's the container name, sorry. So that will be R7 stripe. I did this before, obviously, and I'm just going to change the name so we don't get any conflicts. So we're all done with that. We can now start Docker. Docker compose up -d, and service db refers to an undefined volume. Okay, let's try that again. All right, it's going to go off, goes down, pulls everything down. We're creating a new file, and we're good to go. If we go and look at Docker desktop, what did we call this one? Rails 7, there it is, Rails 7 stripe demo. And we've got the Redis and the R7 stripe Postgres running inside of that with their own things and their own ports that we specified. Cool, all done. So now we can do a Rails DB create and a DB, not create, DB migrate. I think we should be good to go. And we're not good to go because we need to edit our database YAML file. I could have sworn I had that written in here. Where is it? There it is. Edit DB. Can't even read my own notes. Hopeless. I'm again going to copy the existing one that I've made. Database config. Here's all the stuff that you would get. We don't need all this gubbins. Here we are. So we're going to grab these 4 values. These 4 values out of our .env file. So let's paste them in. Let's do an export equals, and our DB host is, see, that's where this comes in handy. Our DB host is not that. DB host is localhost. Our DB port is this one, 54678. Our DB user, where are you? Let's just check that, double check this. Our DB user, of course, is Postgres. And our password, as you saw, was philsmy123. And well, so we have all of that. And now I think, if I'm not mistaken, we are good to go. All right. Where are we? Edit database YAML. And now we can run these two things. And I spelled it wrong anyway. DB migrate. It'll go off, create the database, and create the users. So we are good to go. Let's just, did I say that about 10 times already? I think I did. Controller, home, index. I'm just going to do that as have a basic home page. And we will take a look at our roots and set that to be the root. Home. Ha! Whew! Need a drink after that. Now, the other thing that I do is, okay, we're going to set a port here of, just have something different, and something called dev host. And we're going to call this Fillstripe. Not Fillstrip, Ngrok.io. And in our, well, I'm just going to start it and you'll see. But I use Ngrok. And I'm a big fan of Ngrok. Again, I know that you guys asked for some information about Ngrok. And maybe I don't want to do that, but Ngrok, if you don't know, is again, it's kind of a proxy. It lets you serve web apps that actually can be seen from the outside world. And the reason we're doing that is because we want to connect to Stripe, and Stripe needs to be able to talk to us. So we need to be out there in the real world. So you you sign up, you can pay, maybe you have to pay, I don't remember, I pay. And you download a little app and you can run that. And I've already downloaded it. And Ngrok stable, we're just gonna copy that up here. And so let's unzip Ngrok. Installing Ngrok. And so now what I do is I create a file in here called ngrok.sh, and that just lets me fire up Ngrok, which is one level up, and set a protocol. I don't understand why I need to do that. Subdomain. And what did I call it? Fillstripe. And whatever the port number is, and 3989. There we go. So when this runs, it will open up something in the outside world called fillstripe.ngrok.io that can be connected to from the outside world. And it will connect to a process on the inside on our machine running on 3989. And I like to just mess with it because I can. So the proc file, because we're using .env, we're going to change the web. See, this is the one they had, and this is the one we're going to use. So we're going to just include .env before we do anything else, and then run the bundle exec rails and do all that stuff on the port that we specify in our .env file. So now we can go over here, and where are we? CD Railstripe demo, okay. So we can do bash ngrok, goes off, and it says I have an update available. It doesn't matter. This is the account we use for ZonMaster. And we're running on localhost and you can see it has a cool little, this is a diversion here, but it has a cool little interface that shows you all the requests that have been made to your thing. Well, we'll keep that open, why not? And we can also run HTTPS, which is very nice. So you can connect to HTTPS and it'll point right back to you. Very handy. I don't understand why other developers aren't using it as much, but other developers in my experience are a bit wonky. So let's get rid of that. That was the old demo. So it's running, but of course we have to run the actual Rails process. Proc file with Foreman, and it's off and it's running. And if we go to fillstripe.ngrok.io, and it says, what? You can't talk to me on fillstripe.ngrok.io. And that's so we can put this in hardwired as config host into development.rb. So we can put that line in there if we want, or we can do an env dev host just to see it. See, I've set dev host to be fillstripe and Ngrok. There we go, and we can restart. All good. And there it is. There's our home index. So 20 minutes or so, we got the Rails 7 app running, and it's doing all the things. I've got the Ngrok. So now, oh, I'm going to do one more thing here as kind of a housekeeping. It's a little bit off the bottom, isn't it? Let's Rails ActiveStorage install, because we're going to use ActiveStorage. I'm not going to do using S3 and all that stuff. It's pretty simple. So we have ActiveStorage, and of course if you're going to use ActiveStorage, you need in the gem file to uncomment image processing, otherwise your life will be very difficult. Rails db migrate. And did that migrate? Yeah. So we have ActiveStorage and everything's installed. So let's get down to quickly creating this application. And yes, I'm going to use Scaffold. I couldn't believe it when somebody said things because I was using Scaffold. I mean, we use the other Rails generators, why not? So we need a title. We're going to have some content, which is text. Let's have a user who's the owner, a reference, and that's all we need. Pretty simple. You know, we could do other things like whatever you wanted to, you know, you could do. It depends on what you're using it for. I'm just using it for basic articles. I mean, you can use it for lots of other things, this kind of idea. I'm going to go as simple as possible here. And could not generate field references even. That'll help. And okay, it's gone off. It's created that. Oh no. You know what I didn't do? I always forget what that is. Gem annotate. The amount of times I've forgotten to do this. So when you put the gem annotate in, you need to run the stupid installer. Because I didn't do that. All right, let's Rails db migrate, and we should be good. It should put in, yeah, it's added those annotations here. Fine, and let's go. So So here's the article, but let's add a has one attached file, which is, you know, the thing that we're actually flogging or selling on here. And we'll do has one attached thumbnail. That should let us have a separate image that we can use. Of course, we want these to be dependent destroy. Thank you. And this one too. And we're also going to do attachable. Copilot is awesome. And we'll resize, and this Copilot is not awesome because that is not the way you do it anymore. You say resize to limit and 100 by 100 bounding box. That'll just create a little variant of a thumbnail that's 100 by 100. It's pretty tiny actually, isn't it? Let's do 200 by 200. So that, you know, just pre-create one of those for us so we can easily show something that small. So if we look, where are you? Here, and how about we actually run the thing? There's no reason for me to have stopped it. I just did. Going. There we are. Now we can do something horrible like this, where we have to go to the articles thing and create a new article. It's got all that. Look at this. Not exactly an advertisement for Bootstrap, is it? So while we're here, let's quickly put that inside of a div. What did I do that for? That seems good. Put that inside of a yield. Let's see what it's given us here. Rails 7 stripe demo, and some typo. That. Okay, that's nice. But why don't we put a some kind of navigation? So let's just grab one of these, whichever one floats your boat. Double header. I'm going to go with this one. So if we view page source and we want to look for the one that first says sign up. Sign up, and there we are, this one. So we're going to grab this, put that in there, format it, and if we take a look, now we've got a nice little header, home page, and it's active. We do that, right? No, maybe not. Oh, I see. I didn't do that. That's fine. Let's just add an articles, and we'll put that to be /articles. Or you can do article path if you want, but you're saving yourself a little bit of render time if you don't do that. Pricing, FAQs, about, and then we're going to have a login and log out, which we'll get to in a minute. So we've got this thing here. Here we are. So it lets us create a new article. Of course, that's pretty hideous as well. So why don't we go over to the form? Just going to do a little bit of cleanup to make it look better. I think look better. And class of form control on all those things. Just makes things much nicer. We don't need to see the user ID. There we go, a little bit nicer. And I think a better button down there would be nice too. right, and what else can we do quickly here? Seems fine. All right, so I am whipping through this. I know. Articles controller. I know in a second we're going to get to the active storage. So what I'm going to do is new article params, and we're going to merge that with a user of current user. And that means that what we need to do is make sure that the person is logged in at the times we need to log them in. So we want to make sure that they're logged in anytime except index and show. So here's the articles. Now, because I put that on, oops, I left one off. Sorry about that. So here, now if I click new article, I have to log in to be able to create that article. So let's do a test at test.com. We've signed up, and now we can create an article. So yeah, we've actually signed up, we've created a user. It's that easy. These things work, you know, that's why we use Devise. Anything else I particularly want to do here? Okay, we got that. Permit the title, the content, user ID. So let's add the possibility of adding a file and the possibility of adding a thumbnail. Let's format this properly. Okay, and that means on the form, we want to make sure that we have the proper, what do we have? We're going to have a thumbnail. Right, so let's just quickly chuck that on. So after the title, we put a thumbnail. And after the content, we're going to put the file that we use. And so the way you do it is so easy, again, with Active Storage. We just simply add a file field with the attribute name, and that's it. That's all you do. And now if we refresh this and we create a new article, we can see that we can choose a file to add as the attachment, and we can choose a file to add as the thumbnail. And I think that's done. So let's do a, this is our first article. And we'll just choose a thumbnail. And I always use a bunch of, you know, like things you get from Unsplash. Content that should motivate you to buy me. And I'm going to add, here's a video. Let's add a video. And we create the article. And does a whole bunch of stuff. It creates thumbnails and things like this. I assume that Docker is still running. Docker is still running. I have problem with Docker desktop on the Macintosh. I don't know if you do. It's taking its sweet time, isn't it? There we go. So there we go. That looks pretty hideous. So we can quickly change the show. We're going to use this article renderer. And that means, because you know, if we look at the show, it just renders article, and that using this render article, we'll use the article partial for that. So we're going to get rid of what they have there, and we're going to add a thumbnail. And so we check to see if there's a thumbnail attached, and if there is, then let's make an image tag with the thumbnail of it. And we're going to do to put the article title, and then we're going to say it's uploaded by the user ID. Of course, you would do something nicer than that. Article user email, I think it is. That might be better. And then we'll put the content. And then at the end, we're going to say, is there a video attached? And then we're going to make a video tag. And if it's something else, then we're going to make a preview. So here's a nice, this is again active storage, video tag. You grab it, create a URL for the attachment. You put in some controller, empty controls things so that you can actually get some on-screen controls. And with any luck, when I refresh this, there we go. And there's our thumbnail, and here's our thing, and it's a video. So there we go. That's the first one. If we go to home, or no, if we go to the articles homepage. Now the articles homepage, this is what's ridiculous, is that it also uses the same articles partial. So we'd ideally want to change that. So have we done? Are we done? No, we are not. So we're starting now, getting close to the point where we can add the goodies for this. So let's people edit it if the article dot user equals current user. And I know I spelled that wrong. Then show this article. It'll have edit this article because I'm a user, but if I log out, oh, yikes, why didn't you tell me? I forgot to do that. Of course, my camera died right in the middle, so I took a little break. I'm back now, and we're gonna continue on, hopefully where I left off, if I can remember where that was. Back to the screen. Okay, I think what we were gonna do, oh yeah, is I'd done this silly thing that you couldn't see that you were logged in, right? So I'm gonna just quickly chuck in kind of the standard stuff that we put in to show that you're logged in or logged out. And just for fun, I might put a if current user, then let's just show your email. Okay, good, we're logged in, okay. Now, in theory, okay, now let's get down to it. All right, you ready? We're now going to talk about Stripe. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add a buy button. And I've created just the one article. First, I'm going to create another quick article here. Testing a PDF. And we're going to use, what's that one? No, use that one already. No. Let's see. Got any other good ones? What's that one? Okay, let's use this one. This could be a course PDF. And we're going to choose a file. Let's use something like this. And we're going to create that. And take a minute to upload it. Here we go. And it's got a little preview of the PDF and all the rest of that stuff. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to sign out. And on the article, I'm going to create a div here. And a class of call3, and so we're going to put another little div here, and we're going to kind of do this button to buy me right? Okay, so we're going to see something. If we go to the articles, you can see a little buy me button. And the reason I did this is that I want to say we're only going to show this if the article user does not equal the current user. So, you know, the person who owns the article shouldn't have to buy it. I did that again. There we go. So this will show up again, just to show that if I log in as the test@test.com, go to articles, there's no buy me button. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another account, test buyer at test.com. And we've got the buy me button. So that's nice. It's just a buy me button. It doesn't actually do anything. And so what would we like it to do? I'm not going to walk you through setting up an account with Stripe. Setting up an account with Stripe is a little bit, you know, tricky. All the requirements and whatever, it depends what your country is. So I'm just going to go ahead and assume that you have a Stripe account that works. And we're going to put that into test mode, and we're going to, there's 3 ways that you could do a buy me button on something like this, on an article. So let's take a look at the 3 ways. First, 2 ways require the creation of a product on Stripe. So let's call the article, is this it appears, so get access to this great article. We can chuck in a nice little image to standard pricing. We're going to set this to be a US $5, and to show you something, we're going to Japan yen of 700 and Canadian dollar. I'm Canadian, so I can make fun of Canadian dollars. It'll be $10 because probably by tomorrow it'll be worth $10. And so we're all good. We're not going to set anything else in here. We're going to set 3 currencies so that you can see a multi-currency in theory. And good, we're done. Save the product, and we have our first product. Now there's, like I say, 2 things we can do with a product. The first one is we can simply get a payment link. We can, you know, collect the customer's address we want. Do we want that? No, we don't need any custom fields. We're not going to do anything advanced. You can do things like promotion codes. Stripe is very cool. I'm in love with Stripe. I've been using it for a very long time. And pay, book, whatever. So we'll leave it at pay. We can have promotion codes. We're not going to do that. Allow business customers to provide tax. We're not going to do anything. We're just going to do it straight out of the box as it is. And we can let the adjusters adjust the quantity. No, we're not going to do that. So let's take a look at it. Looks good. Now, the other thing we can do is afterwards, post payment, show the confirmation page, and the confirmation page is that, or we can redirect to our own website. Let's take a look at that. So what we're going to do is https fillstripe.ngrok.io, and we're just going to do that. And purchase success. So we're going to create a link that does that. And it's created a little buy link, and it's simple. Copy the QR buy button. We're just going to do their buy button. Copy the code. So like I say, this is way number one. I'm going to just copy this article for now, and because we're going to go back. So what we can do is chuck in that code from them. And now if we go to our page, we've got a buy. It looks different, whatever, we could have changed that. And that will take us there. And again, we can choose. Now the one thing we didn't do, so let's not waste any time. Now notice that this opens, maybe you don't notice, it opens in a new tab. So we still have the thing over here. We didn't create a purchase success page. So why don't we do that now? And I'm also just going to start, I'm seeing as we're starting to do a bunch of Stripe things, let's just Rails G a controller called Stripe, and let's do the first one, a purchase success. And so that'll create a little page for us. And that's that. And what I did is I didn't put it under Stripe, of course. So I did a Stripe. I just did a get purchase success. So we're going to send that to Stripe purchase success. Good to go. So we can take a look here at what happens when we buy. We can see nothing is happening at all on our side, as it shouldn't. And let's do a test at test.com. No, is it test buyer at test.com? And we just do the standard stuff on the card. Now the interesting thing, it didn't show me the note that it did not show me Japanese yen. So we're gonna click on pay, and yes, great, paid, and it sent me to our Stripe success purchase success page in another tab, and we get just a hit on Stripe purchase success. I'm not a big fan of this for a couple of reasons. I mean, it's super easy, but maybe we could have added some stuff that gets sent, or we could of course store in the session that who you are and all of that. But for me, it's nice, but it doesn't do what I want to do in a purchase. I think there's a lot nicer ways. That kind of buy button link is great. You know, if you have a single product and you just want to add that on, and people buy it, and you know what they're doing. We're not doing something like that. We're doing something a little bit more sophisticated because they're buying one of potentially hundreds of different articles. So we'll just rename this to article buy button, Stripe buy button, because they're all buy buttons, aren't they? Stripe buy button. And let's rename article HTML back. So we're back now to my buy button. And let's look at thing number 2 we can do. Now that we have a product, what we can do, and this is kind of what Stripe talks about from their using Stripe checkout as programmatically, is creating a checkout session. So let's create a checkout session. And boy, oh boy, do I have something fun to share with you. I'm serious, actually. So let's go to that, close that, close that, close that, and let's go to the article. Here's the buy me. Instead of doing this, we're going to create a form. And form with, and do f and end. And what are we going to do on that form? First of all, the thing, one of the advantages to take to know what we're actually buying. So we're going to create a hidden field called ID with a value of the article. Okay. And then we'll just do a submit. And call it buy me to the moon. And a button success. Now, I don't know if we'll be able to see this right now. Yes, we can. So buy me. And no, I want to do that. I'm tired of looking at that. Let's look at this one. So, buy me. It's not going to do anything right now because we haven't had that form do anything. So what do we want to do? According to Stripe, what we want to do is create a checkout session and redirect the customer to that. So let's, on the I do this on the articles controller. I'm probably wrong. There is no right or wrong, but create checkout session because this is specific to buying an article. So what do? We first of all create a Stripe session. And there, so that would do that, and these things, mode and success URL, and because we already have an environment variable, and I'm gonna do that. God, this seemed like probably this faster way than, so we want to do HTTPS. And then we're going to do env dev host. Is that what I called it? Yep, dev host. Purchase success. And for the cancel URL, we're just going to do @article URL. Or is it article URL? Article. I think it's that. That's probably the easiest, right? Article URL @article. Don't need that. So what are we actually buying? So we can add a line items. If we go and look at what Stripe says, we can add line items with the price ID and the quantity. So line items, what was it? That's an array. So the first one will have a price, and that's our price here that we created. When we create a product, you create a price. In our case, it's a multi-currency price. So let's chuck that in. We're just going to hard code it in for now. And we'll do a quantity of 1. And that needs to be there. And purchase success. And what's that funky thing you can do? I don't know where they tell you, but there is, you can add the session ID. Can't remember, there's somewhere in the Stripe documentation they tell you how to do this. So yeah, we're going to add the checkout session ID, and that means that when we come back, we're going to know which checkout session on Stripe was the one that triggered the purchase. So let's just redo this. Now I don't think I redid the button. So the button needs to go to a URL of checkout session, no, create checkout session, right? And we look at the roots. So we need a post. And just create checkout session. And that's going to go to articles, create checkout session. So there we go. We take a look at that button. In the form, we can see it's going to go to create checkout session. The reason we do a form with, and we're actually using Rails, is because we want these authenticity tokens and stuff like that. You can see it's got a hidden value of ID of 2. Now that's something else I didn't do. So on the articles controller, well, for now we'll just leave it. We'll just leave it like that. So let's buy me, and we're going to go over and we can't do the cancel URL because we haven't set article. Oh boy. Oh boy. There we go. So I did need to do that. So we already have this Rails. Rails gives you a helper right out of the bat if you do a scaffolding called set whatever. So whatever, in this case, set article, and it uses the ID param to find the article in this case. So we're going to do that on create checkout session as well. That way we'll have the @article, and then we can do the cancel URL. Great. Click it, and bing, and gosh, it's not working. Why is that? And look, it even says we're going to get here. Oh, I didn't redirect. Redirect to session.url. Okay, fine. Let's try it now. Refresh this page. Kill that log just to see. Bing. Huh. Unsafe redirect to checkout Stripe. You have to add allow other host. That's kind of a new thing in Rails, I think. So allow other host to be true. And I think you can even do a status of 303. I don't need a colon, just 303. And that will just send the browser a thing that says, by the way, right now we're going to redirect this URL to this URL. Looks great, right? Let's go back, articles to, and let's try it. Buy me. Oh my God, it's still not doing it. And if we look in the log, look, it's saying redirected to this, but I don't know about you, but we're not redirected. So why is that? And man, oh man, this drove me bonkers trying to figure that out. And the reason is my old friend, Turbo and Stimulus. Let's take a look. We've got this form. By default, it's going to be using, where is it? Turbo Stream. Yeah. So I wasn't too impressed with that. So what we need to do is I'm going to wrap this, actually we don't need to wrap it in another div. We're going to wrap it in the div, and we have to do a little bit of magic. So we already have the column. Watch this. Data, turbo, false. How crazy is that? So we turn off turbo for that little bit of our page. And let's refresh the page. And I'm going to kill the log so you can see. Buy me. And we're on Stripe. And you can see, same thing, it looks fine here, except we've said do it as HTML, like any normal person. notice the differences here. And this is one of the reasons why this is a little bit of a step above using the buy button. First of all, this has used the multi-currency. Why the buy button from Stripe doesn't use the multi-currency, I don't know. I'm in Japan, so it says, you're in Japan. I'm going to give you Japanese yen, even though, that's one of the great things about Stripe is that it figures that out, so we can set different prices for different people. One of the things I did in one company that was really cool is that if you were in, certain low-income designated countries, we had a much cheaper price. And we went back and reviewed, so people couldn't just use a VPN into Uganda and get half price. But if your card was also associated with the same country, we went back and verified the price. So that's great. So it does this. Nice. We bought the article. Let's do it again. Test buyer at test.com. Yeah, good. Okay. So I'm going to just clear the log here so that we see we buy it and we go and bing. You see, we're all in the same tab. We didn't go back. We're still logged in as the same person. We're on our purchase success. And the nice thing is we get a session. And why is that a nice thing? Because what we can do is figure out what article they've bought. That's kind of the cool and key thing to doing this. So we're going to keep this page up here because we're going to just try and refresh it. So let's go to, what was it? It was the Stripe controller, right? And we got purchase success. And what we can do is grab the Stripe session, Stripe checkout session, and we retrieve it using, is it session ID? Session ID. We'll get that and we can pull it down. And if the session payment status is paid, then here we can figure out which article they bought and save it. But how do we figure out what article they bought, you say? Because if we do that, let's just drop into a console here for a second, because we should be able to do all this from console. I'm going off script now. So let's create params session ID of, what was it? Of this. Okay. I'm going to do that. And now we can grab the session. There's the session, and let's take a look at it. And we can see all kinds of great stuff. We can see my name. Payment status is paid. And we know that we bought the article and so on. But there's no way to know which article we bought, is there? We might, we could do something funky and check out the cancel URL because we know we're going back to do, so we could grep out the ID. We could do horrible things like that. But my suggestion, okay, we're going to do two things here. My suggestion is not to do anything horrible. Let's try and do something nice. And that is, quite simply, we're going to add some metadata. And we're going to add article ID. And it's going to be the article ID. That's all the magic we need right there. Now, unfortunately, it's not retroactive, so I'm going to have to buy again. Luckily, this is not a real credit card. So what we can do, where are you? Just trying to clear up my stuff. I've got a ton of tabs open. There you are. Yeah, we're good to go. So that's it. So now let's go back to article number 2 and buy me. So there's no visible difference here. It says an article, get access to this great article. Actually, you know, that really annoys me. Because the person is checked in and we're making sure that they're checked in, if I'm not mistaken, they have to be checked in to do the checkout session. I think, where is it? We can add a customer. Line items, no. Let's just try it. Again, I'm going off piste here. Customer and current user email. Let's just try it. Worst that can happen is it won't work. Buy me. No such customer. It's annoying that I can't find it. Not build subscription. Pre-build checkout. No. Stripe checkout. Let's just do Stripe checkout. Add customer. Create a checkout session. That's what I want. And the customer. No, customer details. That's why. So customer details and email that. I believe that that will figure it out for us. Buy me. That's interesting. A response. Parameters. Customer optional. It's the ID of an existing customer email. I was too clever. Often a problem. There we go. Saves me having to type that in, make sure we know that we're tying it to the right customer. It doesn't let them type in a different email, which makes life very difficult when they do that. 1126. We can type in anything in here as long as it's in the future. And we're gonna do, what's the difference here? We're gonna, when we hit, we should be able to grab from the session the article. So we're all done. We're back on here. Okay, where are you? Let's, first of all, we're gonna update the session ID that we got just so I can show you. Bada bing. And where's the session ID? That's what it is this time. Here we are. Let's, nope. There. Here we are. And you can see we've got now a metadata that says article ID of 2. Now, if you were, what you could do is, of course, you wouldn't use the actual ID in there. You can use an encrypted thing. I do that all the time. I have a little encrypted, a little bit of code that takes any ID and encrypts it and decrypts it into something crazy. But we've got that. We've got a Stripe controller. So now we can say article ID equals the session metadata article ID, and the article equals article.find. So we know we've got, we've actually found the article that they bought. So let's now save that by creating a purchase object. So we're going to just, I've created a small little object called purchase, and that has got a status, and it's got an article that it references, a user that it references, and the Stripe ref. So now what we can do is just, where are you? There you are. We can do a purchase, find or create by user and article. And do paid. So that will create, we don't need to do that anymore in the, being the future. And there we are. So we've figured out what article it is they've bought. And what we're going to do is on the article thing, I'm going to just say, you know, so a little bit of code here. No, just do that. So if there's a current user and yeah, I mean, you would do it maybe with nicer current user dot purchases where the article ID equals article ID. You've already bought this, or maybe you would just have a div purchased class button warning purchased, else then we're going to put the form in there, right? So let's rerun this, and what should happen is that it finds, here you can see that it went through and it did a purchase create, and so user 2 has purchased article 2, and now if we go to article 2, oh dear, there's no method purchases, because if we look at a purchase, it'll do the belongs to user, but the user has many articles, which we didn't do before, has many purchases. There we go. And purchased and purchased. How's that possible? Purchased is right, but this one is not correct because they did not purchase it. How many purchases do we have? Purchase. Purchase dot all. Oh. We only got one, so the article ID is 2. So I've obviously done something wrong. .any. That's why. By me. So there we go. That's way number 2. Now way number 3. There's pros and cons. More cons than pros. What you can do is, instead of using a product, you could simply he says with a joke, you can do this. Instead of that, you can set price data, and you can set, then you can't use the niceness of the currency, unit amount, you don't get the multi-currency because you're not using the price that you created inside of Stripe. And the only reason, in my opinion, to do it is because you can set a name, you know, purchasing article title. And that's really the only reason to do it. So if we look at it, you can see purchasing, this is our first article. But you don't get any of the other good stuff that you get, the multi-currency. You'd have to figure all that out yourself. At least I haven't figured out how to. Well, you're not using the product that you created inside of Amazon, of Stripe. So that's why. So initially I thought this is a nicer way to go, because you do get, you know, this nice little title. But I think you get many more pros if you use the price and you use the product inside of Stripe. And maybe there's a way to customize the line items. I haven't quite figured out if there is or not, but you can do that. But there you go. And I'm going to leave all the rest up to you as an exercise for purchasing, because now I'm going to take a little break, but we're going to look at having the user subscribe to the whole website so you can give them every article. Talk to you in a minute. Hey guys, just a quick tag on the end here. I've decided to split the second part of doing Stripe subscriptions into another video. So I'm going to upload that in a little bit, and you'll get a link. You'll be able to see that on my YouTube channel. So see you over there if you're interested in Stripe subscriptions. Bye for now.